Today is a very special day as the Batman film officially releases in theaters. If you're anything like me, you've already seen the film. This would be my spoiler-free review and discussion of the movie, the things that I absolutely loved within it, and overall my general impressions of the new Dark Knight. Let's get into it. So guys, welcome to the channel and thank you so much for hanging out with me on another discussion video. Today we are talking about the Batman film, and I gotta say, like, I don't even know where to begin with this film. There's so much that I wanted to talk to you guys about as I was going through watching the film, you know, going through the 3 hours of absolute bliss. I was thinking and trying to jot down in my mind all of these little moments within the film that I really thought, man, we got to talk about that. And to be honest with you, there's just too many. There's no script or anything. I just really am just thinking off the cuff of some of the moments within the Batman film that I saw that really stood out to me, moments that I absolutely loved, whether it be within the music, the cinematography, the action, or something completely different. So hopefully you'll bear with me as I may go off the beaten path a little bit. I'm not too fond of doing reviews myself, so you know, this will be a first time experience for the both of us. So I'll start things off and try to be as specific as I can. Let's talk about Robert Pattinson as the Batman, because I think going into this film, there was a lot of skepticism that people were feeling about Robert Pattinson's ability to portray the Dark Knight and to deliver what people hold to be a very high expectation for the character. We all know Batman, we all love Batman, and I think anybody that dons the cowl and attempts to jump into this world of Gotham, I think is up against a very high bar of expectation. And that's just kind of the case that's just kind of what it is when it comes to movies such as this. I think the same falls for people who jump into being Spider-Man, Superman, or any of these other iconic comic book characters that we've come to know and love. But in terms of Robert Pattinson's ability to deliver a very in-depth, character portrayal of Bruce Wayne and the Batman, I think he did an excellent job, man. This is something that I have been promoting since the first trailer, the first of what, 3 or 4 trailers. As soon as I saw I think it was the second trailer that had come out, where I actually began to believe that, okay, I think this man's serious, and I think he's going to deliver a role and a portrayal of Bruce Wayne that is unlike anything we've ever seen before. You know, no George Clooney, not even Christian Bale, right? Maybe if you're watching the film, or if you've seen the film, maybe there's some little moments that you can look at where you say, oh yeah, okay, I could see like that was a little bit of Christian Bale in there. Oh, I could see that was a little bit of Michael Keaton, right? You know, and I'm sure like when you're trying to, get into a character like this, you probably will look back naturally at some of these other iconic, figures and celebrities that have played the role in the past. But I really feel like Robert Pattinson brings in his own flavor, man, his own interpretation of Bruce Wayne. And it truly feels like Matt Reeves and the gang and the other filmmakers that were involved in this film were really trying their best to deliver a very different Batman story than anything we've ever seen before, which I really loved. One of the most important aspects that I think is worth taking note of at the start of this video is the fact that this feels much more than a Batman beat 'em up. And by that I mean, when you go back and you look at the Christian Bale Dark Knight trilogy, or really any of the other Batman films, you kind of can't help but feel like it's about Batman going out there, beating up the bad guys, doing what he does best, instilling fear into those who think that they can get away with these heinous crimes that they go through, within Gotham City. But what I love so much is that it feels like it's an investigative story first. It felt like Batman, and as he's going out working with the GCPD, that he's a detective before anything, an honorary, Gotham police detective. And it's really cool to see that, and to see this dissonance that the police force feels, where they're like, this dude he's a weirdo, he's a freak, he's running around here with this bat suit on and stopping the bad guys, saving the city, all this stuff, right? But at the same time, he doesn't pay them any mind. He goes about doing his business and using his deductive skills and being able to figure out what exactly is happening and being able to defeat these. And when it comes to the Riddler, I think the Riddler was the best villain to pair against the Batman in this Robert Pattinson's first go at this hero, because I think when you look at it, if he were to go up against someone like the Joker, I really do feel like, and I said this before, I feel like it would have been the Joker story. And while Batman would have been a part of it and he would have been a main component of it, it still is very the Joker is very polarizing as a villain, and he's one that really steals the show in a good way. You know, the Joker's iconic. He's amazing, right? And over the last couple of years, we've seen many renditions of the Joker, whether it be from, you know, Joaquin Phoenix to Jared Leto or whoever, like, right? We've seen so many renditions of the Joker. So if they brought in a new Joker, or maybe they brought in Joaquin or someone like that, I really feel like he would have stole the show, you know, whoever it was. But the Riddler is not someone, he's not a villain that is overlooked, right? But he's a villain that I think really brings out the best part of Bruce Wayne, of Batman, and that's really his deductive reasoning. That's his ability to go into a situation, analyze it, and be able to figure out the you know, this intricate puzzle of, you know, what is the villain's main motivation, what is he trying to do, what's he going to do next, and how can I stop him. And I think that that's what we got to see a lot of in this film. That's what I love the most, is that it really brought out a different side of Bruce, where, you know, we still got to see him beat up the bad guys, we still got to see him be tough and be an absolute badass, right? We got to see those moments, and they were really cool when they happened. But the movie didn't rely on him being the beat 'em up Batman that we've come to see in some of the previous films from other actors. And that's not to say that those movies were bad, it's just different, right? I like that they took a different approach. It required Batman to be a bit more tactical with how he did things, and that even included working with, you know, someone like Selena Kyle, played by Zoe Kravitz, who absolutely dominated the role of Catwoman. She was so good in it, and to this day I will honestly say that she is my Catwoman. I love Halle Berry. I think Halle Berry was great, and nothing against Anne Hathaway, but I really feel like Zoe Kravitz is Catwoman. Like, that's who I will forever compare the role to, is Zoe Kravitz. And like I said, it's not to say that anyone who has done the role in the past didn't do it justice. I remember crushing on Halle Berry for a long time after her Catwoman, you know, appearance, but there, you know, and Anne Hathaway was decent in the role. I liked it, but I was definitely looking for something different when I saw the, you know, the Dark Knight movies. But all in all, I think Zoe Kravitz absolutely stole the show in the best possible way, and her relationship with Bruce was both complicated but also provided a very interesting change to the pacing of the movie, where you got to see a little bit more of a vulnerable side of Bruce. You got to see a little bit of a more vulnerable side, and a side that had a little bit more humanity than when he was out beating up the bad guys. You could tell that he had a little bit of a soft spot for Selena, right? He sees himself, I think, in her, and these choices that she's making to get revenge over the people who have done her dirty in her life, you know, is, I think, the same way that Bruce feels when he goes out and dons a Batman suit and goes out and beats the bad guys, right? It's that same sense of vulnerability coming out in an explosive way, in a somewhat violent way, where, you know, it feels like, okay, you know, he's got to take out his aggression some way, and I think Batman is the way that he does that. We've seen that in a lot of other villains that have torment, or a lot of other heroes, I should say, that have some tormented past, such as Daredevil or Punisher, right? You know, when it comes to those two, they really go out and they do what needs to be done, but they kind of do it on their own terms, and their morality is a little bit swayed based on their own perceptions, and based on their own traumatic past, right? It's how they go about dealing with certain things. And I think that's something that Bruce in this movie battles with a little bit, but it doesn't take him over, right? I think there's a duality when Batman is going out into the city and fighting these bad guys, but he doesn't allow his traumatic past to fully overtake him throughout the entire movie, right? Where he's just out here just beating the hell out of just anybody that looks at him dirty. In this movie, like, it feels like there's a nice balance there, where he still, you know, deals with these things, but he deals with them away from the action. And when he's in the action, he's tuned in, he's doing what needs to be done, but he still keeps his morality, and he doesn't let it get out of hand. Now, without spoiling anything, we see this at the end of the movie where Batman, you know, maybe goes a little bit too far, but that's all I'm going to say about it. You know, you'll have to get there for yourself, but there is a moment when it does feel like there's a little bit of Daredevil coming out. But it, even aside from that one particular moment, I think for the rest of the film, Batman is relatively tamed with how he goes about dealing with some of these bad guys. He's very calm, and he knows what he has to do. But in terms of, like, the realism of this Batman, I gotta say, guys, I gotta say that this might be one of the most realistic Batman movies that we've ever seen. It's nice when you see a hero such as Batman still be vulnerable when he's in the middle of the action and he's fighting a group of guys, right? And he's still taking blows and still taking hits, and you could see that it affects him. He's not invulnerable, which I like when they provide that realism within these films, because Batman is vulnerable. He is able to get hurt, and if he's not careful, but it's the way that he keeps his cool when he's in these heated situations that is what helps him keep alive. He's able to just think so quickly on his feet. And when they were doing the fighting, I don't know who came up with the choreography, but they did such a great job at creating this realistic flow of how the body moves in terms of taking certain hits or where he was hit. He's responding in a certain way and immediately turning his attention to that enemy, that immediate threat, and devising a way in which he can defeat this foe. And I don't know, it's something that it's hard to explain in words, but I think if you're watching the film, or if you go watch it a second or third time, definitely pay attention to the combat and the way that Batman moves in relation to his enemies. It's really cool. It's one of my favorite moments. And I know I did a little bit of a TikTok video about this, but I want to go into a little bit of detail. One of the things that I said when I was talking about my top 5 things that I loved about this film involves the cinematography. Just there's a shading, there's a graininess to the film that I really love. It didn't feel like other Batman films. It really felt like it was its own thing. It had its own life, and the way that the world of Gotham is structured through the lens of the camera is just so beautifully done. Some of my favorite moments when it comes to cinematography are when Batman begins to peer out of the darkness, and you can hear his footsteps as he's walking, and I like these are some of the coolest moments in the film when you can hear him walking with his boots, and he's walking so slow, just step by step by step, and like you can feel the tension rising, the music is starting to build up a little bit, and then all of a sudden, out of just complete pitch black darkness, you see Batman come out. And that's obviously something they played on a little bit, where Batman has instilled fear into the foes of Gotham, to where when they're out there doing their dirt or committing crimes and things, any dark circle or any dark room, dark alley could have Batman in it, and just be prepared that he's about to beat that ass. Like, that's all I'm saying. And I love that that's the impact that Batman has had since he's donned since Bruce Wayne has donned the cowl, and it causes a lot of enemies, a lot of the foes within the beginning of the movie and throughout, to really second guess their actions and what they're going to do, because you never know where Batman is. And I love that they started the film with that. I think it was really cool. But yeah, when it comes to the cinematography of this film, I gotta say, like I said, that what they do with how they use certain scenes and use the environment to their advantage is obviously, it's undoubtedly one of my favorite moments inside of the Batman. But yeah, we talked about Selina Kyle. Love Selina Kyle. I think Zoe Kravitz did an amazing job. Overall, Robert Pattinson absolutely nailed the role. And this made me very happy, because I know, I don't know if Robert Pattinson deals with this a lot, but I when it comes to Robert Pattinson, there's often a lot of ews and oh, really? Like, and I know that's what a lot of people were saying when they announced that he was going to be the Batman a couple years ago. And it's really cool to see that this movie comes out now, and to see pretty much anybody that was doubting him praising the movie and saying that, wow, that was really good for him. I know people were saying initially that they weren't so sure about the fact that he was more of an emo Batman or emo Bruce Wayne, and not sure how that was going to play out into the overall theme of the film, and I think it played out very well. Like, to be honest with you, this tormented, tortured Bruce Wayne that is still dealing with the remnants of his past, and the Riddler definitely plays into that a little bit as well, is I think what humanizes the Batman in this film more than any other, because he's still dealing with those traumatic incidents of his past and the things that he still is haunted with in his life as Bruce Wayne. And I think it's beautifully done how they show that he's still dealing with these things. He's still hurt, or at least maybe not hurt, but still, affected by them. And the way that he doesn't really make eye contact with people, the way that he doesn't really engage, signifies an individual that has undergone some trauma. And in many ways, you can kind of see that Bruce Wayne doesn't want to make connections. He doesn't want to engage with people. Even in the scene where he's talking to the mayor-elect, she's asking, and saying that you could be doing a lot more for this city. And obviously she doesn't know that he's doing a lot for the city, but in terms of you know, as Bruce Wayne, he doesn't really want to, you know, adapt himself to society. And I think that's something that we may have all experienced at some point or another. If you lose a loved one or something, you just kind of want to remove yourself. But when you have someone like Bruce Wayne who's dealt with the traumas that he's had of losing both of his parents, I think it's completely understandable. And it made watching him that much better, you know, because you can kind of see like what he's been dealing with. And I don't know. I don't know. I'm going off on a rant, but I'll just say that I absolutely loved Bruce Wayne as the character just as much as I loved seeing him as Batman. And that's really hard to do. I think Batman overtakes Bruce Wayne a little bit. When it comes to seeing these Batman films in the past, it was a lot more focused on Batman. But I think they did a great job of splitting the difference and having it be a lot of Bruce Wayne, or a decent amount of Bruce Wayne and a decent amount of Batman. And I think that was really nice. So obviously there's more stuff that I could talk about. The Riddler I think was great. The cameo at the end was great. I don't want to, you know, spoil anything, but they do a nice little I guess teaser to suggest that there is more coming. They've already announced 2 spin-offs, one that's going to focus on Arkham Asylum and the second one that is going to focus a bit more on the Penguin. The Penguin too. Okay, Penguin, Colin Farrell absolutely nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Not only was I don't know how they made him look like that, like, but bravo to the makeup team. They did an incredible job. I think it was absolutely awesome. I would have loved to see more of the Penguin. I think that might be my only critique about this film. I would have loved to see more of the Penguin. And I guess my second critique would be that 3 hours is a long time. Not to say that I don't believe that this film should have been 3 hours. I think it was a good amount of time for them to tell the story they were trying to tell. Anything less might have cut out some stuff, and it might have left a bit more plot holes. But when I thought the movie was over, we still had like 45 minutes to go, and I was like, holy hell, man. Okay, you know, so like that's just a personal problem. Like I don't particularly love long movies, but this was definitely one that I really enjoyed, and I think was really well done. So overall, guys, like I said, I really enjoyed this Batman film. I think if I had to rate it out of 10, I would probably give it like an 8.75, maybe a 9, because I just think it was that good. But like I said, it's just a small critique, but I just would have loved to see more of the Penguin. Maybe, you know, I think Selena Kyle had a decent backstory. I think they did a good job of fleshing her character out a little bit, and then obviously a lot of it was on Bruce Wayne. But an honorable mention that I will say before closing out is that I really loved just the pacing of the story. And I really loved the characters. I just think everyone did such a good job. They very carefully picked the characters that would be in this film, and even Gordon was an awesome ally to Batman throughout the film. I think the fight when he's trying to get to the mobsters was really good. I just think the club scenes were really cool. There were so many moments that I could talk about, right? And we could go into that. I just want to give a general summation of what I loved about the film. I might even go into detail in another video, getting more specifics into, you know, Batman or some other elements that I really enjoyed about the movie. But overall, I would say that the movie was very good. It was long, but it did a good job of fleshing out the characters, fleshing out the story, and it's a movie that I would definitely see again. So if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend taking a moment this weekend or whenever you can to go check out this movie. It's one that you don't want to miss, and undoubtedly, and you know, arguably, I would say it is one of the best movies of 2022 so far. Now it's still early. Obviously, I've only seen 2 movies. I think Uncharted and this movie. I think we have, you know, obviously there's a lot more movies coming out later this year, but I'd say this one is, when we get to December, we're talking about the end of the year, I truly feel like this will be a film that we'll still be talking about, or at least that's the hope. But let me know what you guys think. If you've seen it, let me know without dropping any spoilers. What did you think about the film? Did you enjoy it? Was it your cup of tea? How would you compare it to the other Batman films that we've seen in the past? That is what I'm very interested to see. But overall, I really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys did as well. If you enjoyed the content, drop a like on this video as it greatly helps out the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already, as we'd love to have you. And follow me on TikTok, all that kind of good stuff. And until then, I hope you're safe. I hope you're doing well. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.